Hey guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber. Today we are checking out one of the iconic missions from Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and it's called Clean House. So, I have never seen this. I haven't even played Call of Duty Modern Warfare, right? I'm more of a PC gamer, and everything I play is old anyway. But I've heard so much about it. I got to check it out. So this is the first time I'm seeing it, and you guys can ride along with me, and we'll see just how much they get right. But before we get started, do me a favor, hit like on this video, let the YouTube algorithm know that I am not making clickbait, that I'm putting out quality stuff, and subscribe to the channel to get more of my reactions to video games, films, movies, trailers, you name it. Okay. Now that that's done, let's get started.
To destroy General Barkov's forward operations base, temporarily limiting Russian air capability in Urzikstan. We need to move fast. Sergeant Garrick, thanks to your intel, we tracked the Al-Qatala cell responsible for the Piccadilly attack to a townhouse in North London. 3 SAS teams will get inside and connect the dots. If the Wolf is in possession of the stolen Russian gas in Urzikstan, we need to find them. Be advised, there may be non-combatants on target. Check your shots.
Okay, so my first thought is it sounds like 3 teams from the SAS. I assume a team is probably going to be maybe like 12 to 25 shooters. That's a pretty good ratio to clear out a house, assuming that you're not in hostile territory. Though I will say all three teams going inside the house is not usually a standard protocol. What you would see is a cordon element, right? Because there's always the danger when you breach a building, especially when you're looking for a specific target, that those targets may flee out the building, out through an entrance you didn't anticipate, and you want to have forces surrounding the building in order to catch them, a cordon element. And then your element that breaches is going to be your search element.
Targets are up, boys. Let's kick this off.
Yep, it's got his universal key, the bolt cutters. You know, why breach with something that's going to be loud, like a breaching charge, when you can just snip a gate open? That said, it's kind of a creaky gate, and, you know, if you live at a house, right, you know the sound of your front door opening and closing, so there may be some incentive to try to do so a little more stealthily than they are now. The other thing that I gotta say worries me is it looks like they're carrying M4s. And, again, they're in a townhouse in central London, and you know, 5.56 rounds, they pack a punch, and they have a lot of penetration, especially if they're full metal jacket rounds. And so the danger that you're in is if you get into a firefight, even if you shoot a person, it's easy to punch through a wall, and suddenly you're shooting into their neighbor's townhome. So again, maybe we'll see if other members of the team have rounds, I'm thinking like UMPs or MP5s, something that's a little more, something with a little less penetration.
Bravo 6. Moving on the rear garden.
Yeah, moving quietly. Okay, yeah, this looks all right. You know, why be detected early? You want to have the maximum element of surprise, and so you try your best to enforce noise and light discipline as far into the target as you possibly can.
Bravo 6 is Alpha 2.
Again, this is a first-person shooter thing. You know, I get it. In first-person shooters, your gun is always like in the screen, but normally you would never like point your gun at your friendlies, especially when you're clearing a house. You'd always keep it at the low ready, point it at the ground until you're ready to bring it up to engage.
About to enter the West Alley. Copy.
kettle on.
Okay, so did you see how they entered? I can't tell if this was just a coincidence or if it was really planned by the designers that way, that they actually breached the second floor under using the passing of the elevated train as cover, right? It's a little harder to hear when those trains are coming through. You may not necessarily be able to hear the sound of like a ladder clanking against the side of a building.
Quiet.
We're working with an ultra-national fleet. They'll
Take
handle
the front now.
operations in the east after the
Trouble.
attacks.
All right, so I gotta say, I didn't see a lot of weapons there. I heard people talking. Obviously, there's the weapon there on the table. Again, it's a first-person shooter, so one person is going to be doing all the work. I acknowledge that. In a real room clearing, you wouldn't stop at the doorway and engage targets. You would try to push through to allow your buddies behind you to come through and clear their sectors, right? Because what you want to do is get the maximum amount of firepower in that room as fast as possible, right? So you never want to stop and engage. You know, you walk and shoot to make sure your folks can get in behind you.
Cool.
Alpha 3. Entering through the front door. Bravo 6, moving to the first floor.
So here's what's interesting. You could hear someone running around upstairs. A nice realistic touch. It's tough though. To me, it would say, hey, they're probably have alerted to the fact that there's enemy in the house, right? So your stealth advantage is sort of mitigated. I'm sort of curious as to, I understand why they wouldn't cut the power before hitting the house, but it seems like now, if you've got night vision, you would want to have someone cut the power to the house in order to plunge it into darkness so that you have that comparative advantage. But again, sometimes these sort of things, like things that seem simple, may be really complicated, you know? Maybe for operational security, you don't want to be telling London Power Company what you're doing. Maybe you can't cut the power easily. Maybe it's not safe to do so, right? There's a lot of operational reasons that you may just have to keep the power on in the house.
Target behind the wall. X-ray down.
2 X-rays down.
Interesting. Okay, X-rays. That's new. I'm used to the Tom Clancy games. I always call them tangos. Here they're X-rays. Again, who knows? I'm not familiar with the SAS and their terminology. Maybe that's standard, or maybe that's just a Call of Dutyism. But you can see that this player actually made understood the parameters. Shot the one guy who was armed right away as soon as he saw the weapon, and only when the woman went for a weapon did she become a hostile. He had what in the military we call positive identification of a threat, and positive ID means that you have to actually see a weapon, right? You can't do things like receive fire from a direction, see a person, and be like, oh, that person must be the one who shot me, therefore they're a hostile. Right, positive ID means you have to confirm that they are doing a hostile act or demonstrating a hostile intent. Right, so grabbing a weapon, grabbing a weapon and pointing it towards them is a showing a hostile action.
Copy. Make sure this floor's secure.
Okay, that's an interesting call right there. because we know that there are civilians in the house, and yeah, he took fire through the doorway, but it's a questionable call to put rounds through a wall like that. Ultimately, it's going to depend on the situation. And here's the other thing, the law, right? The UK law, this is a law enforcement action, right? I assume these are UK citizens or UK nationals in the United Kingdom, and they are going to be subject to UK law. So I don't know, again, if the SAS is used for this sort of thing. In the United States, our military is prohibited from doing domestic law enforcement in almost every situation. There's a few exceptions for things like the National Guard. But if this were in the United States, this would be done by someone like maybe the FBI's hostage rescue team, or another high-level SWAT type force, right? And they would be, of course, doing a law enforcement action, which really probably doesn't let you shoot through walls in an unknown direction.
First floor secure.
On me.
Okay, I couldn't tell if the player said first floor was secure or if the other team on the lower floor was just acknowledging, hey, the first floor is secure. Because you can't call the first floor secure if he literally hasn't checked every closet, But I like the fact these guys are taking their time, right? Even though things are hostile, right? Unlike a lot of first-person shooter games that I've played, this one understands that the pace of this sort of thing is slow and deliberate and careful and step by step, right? Because no matter what, the enemy has had more time to dig in and plan than you do. So you want to maximize your awareness, your understanding of the situation. You don't want to run into a situation where you don't have a great understanding.
Bravo 6, moving to the second floor.
Okay, so again, this is the player, but you would almost never turn and flag your battle buddies in a stack as they were climbing stairs, and you would always have your sector in the stairs that you would always be covering. And in this case, you're a 4-man SAS team. They would all know exactly, hey, I'm the 4th man. My job is to get the rear. Maybe it's to get behind us. Maybe it's to get the far right portion of the stairs and kind of pie the door as we go up. But what you wouldn't see is someone swinging between looking at their buddies, looking back, looking forth, looking at different directions. No, they would have a designated sector that they would continually face.
Flash out from 2C. Roger, moving. Wait!
See, that's the tough call, man. You had one of those guys, right, they took fire from the room. One of those guys was put his hand up, was saying, wait, wait, wait. Maybe he was saying, wait, I'm a civilian. Wait, I don't know these guys. Wait, I want to surrender, right? And in that call, especially, again, under at least UCMJ, U.S. military law, law of war, and U.S. law, you've got to try to take that person into custody. You can't kill you shouldn't be able to kill someone who is unarmed and surrendering. Again, don't want to make this a political thing. I'm just talking about the law of war.
Floor secure.
Right up the stairs.
Okay, do you see how they have the little white patches on their uniform. Those are infrared patches, and what they obviously, you can see, they're glowing in IR. And what that's used for is to help distinguish friend from foe. The thought process here would be something like, let's say one of these folks has bought a bunch of like tactical swag on the open market, or maybe they've gotten a bunch of tactical gear from a foreign hostile government, right? It may actually be hard to distinguish them, right? These are all things that, you know, the fast helmets, the plate carriers, this is all stuff that you might actually see in, you know, available commercially, right? Look at every Milsim player. But using the IR glint tape helps them, especially at night when it's hard to see anyway, or in night vision, when uniform colors kind of get washed out, you can easily distinguish, hey, this person's one of us because they have the glint tape in the right spots. So a cool little detail they've done here.
Bravo 6 taking the 3rd floor.
I will not betray the wolf. I don't want to be one of your guys. Let me go. Let me go.
Take your shots.
Hands up! Now! Don't move!
Secure him. Suck that kid up. Secure.
Okay, gotta say, you didn't see that guy just took a pot shot at a guy who's only was seen peeking his head out around a corner, right? Strangers are entering your building, right? That's not necessarily an act of hostility. That's just a person who's wondering who's breaking into my house. Again, in an optimal world, right, you've got to look for that positive identification of a threat. The other thing that's a little worrisome, and I assume that maybe one of the other team members did this, but checking the woman with the baby. It's wild to think about, but that person could, in theory, still be a threat, right? So the good move would be to have someone stand in front of her, ideally someone of the same gender, depending on the culture, and just give them a quick pat down, just to check, hey, no weapons, no vests or anything like that. Just check to make sure, right? And then you can start to get them out of the house and get them to safety, right? That's a pretty standard protocol. Again, not saying it didn't happen. It may be one of the things the game designers are like, yes, one of your other team members will take care of this.
Last floor, take point, Sergeant.
Locked.
Try and take him alive.
Down! Get down! Get down!
Don't shoot! Don't shoot, please!
Okay, so this is interesting, man. Again, so they opened the door, the player kind of pied it a little bit, and then went straight in, and you can see his buddy who's behind him to the left. I mean, maybe they entered and pied the back of the door, but once one person has entered, you've got to control that room with all your personnel, right? You can't slowly creep through a door, right? You can pie the door, but then if you're going to push it, you all have to push it together, and you all are going to turn, check your different sectors, and secure the room quickly. We sometimes call it dominating the room, right? When that door opens, right, you pie it a little bit, you take that little bit of a tactical advantage, but then when you enter, you've all got to enter and go and take control of that room.
We're going to kill
Don't
me!
move!
They
Stop!
locked me in here!
Drop him.
Clear.
All teams, townhouse secure. Commence SSE.
Oh, fucking hell.
Man, again, that's tough. You had a person who was surrendering, right? They turned abruptly and suddenly. Again, did you have positive idea of a threat? Not at the time you took the shot, right? You shot somebody who was going for this detonator, right? But only now does he realize it's a detonator. And it's tough to say. is that really a detonator on a device? Is it incomplete? Is that even what she was going for, right? And maybe this is meant to illustrate how hard these calls are in the moment and how tense these sort of situations can get. But this is the price. This is the struggle of urban combat, of room clearing. I mean, this is why it's considered so challenging, because you have instance to discern intent.
She was going for a bloody detonator.
Good job we dropped it in.
We made the right call, sir.
I'll bet your hose. We've got a location on the wolf.
Alright guys, that is it. That takes us through Clean House. Okay, gotta say, overall, they did a really good job of capturing just how challenging and how deliberate you have to be in order to effectively clear a building like that. And, you know, I really appreciate that unlike a lot of Call of Duty type first-person shooters, the pacing was very deliberate, right? Instead of being a run and gun, push, it was slow and methodical, which is closer to how it would really be. I think a couple of times, again, you had this first-person player who would stop in the middle of doorways and do his engagement. Don't think that's as realistic as you would want it to be, right? You want to enter, you want to let all your battle buddies behind you get in that room. But overall, man, that was pretty cool. You know, I feel like it's you know, maybe Call of Duty's come a long way, right? I remember, gosh, 7 or 8 years ago, and Call of Duty was about running and gunning just as fast as you can through these missions. So pretty interesting and pretty significant commitment to realism. Man, I would not want to be a Crown lawyer dealing with some of those shots that they took. But again, I'm not familiar with UK law, so I can't really say with certainty that one call was the right one or not. But in any case, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I enjoyed watching it. If you did, hit like, and let me know in the comments if you have more gameplay missions or anything like that that you want me to check out. I'm all about it. And until next time, I will see you guys later.